Hey everyone, it's the Doom Dog. Dalton and I recently co-opted our way through Gears of War 3 on the channel. We finished it recently, and you know what that means. It's time for a review. Join me as we take a look at Gears of War 3 for the Xbox 360 and see how it holds up over a decade later. Gears of War 2 had to be a difficult story to follow up on. I cannot be the only one who felt that it had a sense of finality to its ending, can I? It did end on a somber note, but the primary antagonists of the series were pretty much defeated when that game ended. Where do you go from there? How do you follow that up without it feeling forced? These are the kinds of questions that the development team had to tackle when making Gears of War 3. Gears of War 3 begins a couple of years after the second game ended. The Locusts are largely defeated in a shadow of their former selves, but they are still hanging around and trying to regroup. They are still fighting against the humans. I guess they did not get the memo that the war is basically over. Humanity is trying to rebuild the pieces in a world ruined by war. Things are not easy for them though, because a new threat has appeared called the Lambent. Something seems to have gone wrong with the glowing fuel source on the planet called Emulsion, and it seems to be infecting a lot of the Locusts. They charge at the cog in hordes and they explode when they die. They are dangerous to leave alive, and they are dangerous to kill. Beyond this, Marcus recently discovered that his father is still alive, and he needs to speak to Marcus. He has been researching the Lambent and trying to find a solution to whatever has gone wrong with the Emulsion. Marcus and the rest of Delta need to track him down. What has gone wrong with the Emulsion? Can anything be done about the Lambent? What needs to be done with the remaining Locust forces? Join Marcus Phoenix and Delta. It's time for a family reunion. Before I sat down to play and record Gears of War 3 for a co-op let's play of it, I honestly remembered absolutely nothing about the game, and playing through it basically did nothing to alleviate this. I know I beat the game. I remember beating it. Beyond that, I could not have told you one single thing about its story or anything related to it. I thought this did not bode well for the game. I was more or less wrong. There were moments during the Let's Play where I didn't really know what was going on, but that was really more on me than the game. This game's story surprised me to the point where I was shocked that I remembered none of it. It has some very strong moments where I was asking myself, how did I not remember this? This game does have plenty of the typical Gears of War cheesy and fun storytelling, as story was never the big focus of this series, but it has some very serious moments spread throughout as well. Meeting Marcus Phoenix's father is bittersweet, and there is one moment maybe halfway through the game that will hit you right in the feels. The story is much better than not remembering it at all would suggest. One thing this game does better than the previous two is mix in moments of humor. There were moments here and there in the previous two games, but this game definitely has the most humor of these three sprinkled throughout its campaign. It is a welcome addition to the story, especially given that this has more heavy and emotionally impactful moments than the first two games did. There is one moment with Cole that is particularly great. All in all, this game has a much better story than I was expecting it to. It has a few really heavy emotional moments and good humor mixed in. It has some nice closure to this trilogy of games, and it has a good somber ending with hope for the future, as is befitting of this trilogy of games. This is a good ending to the trilogy, and it would have been a good place to leave off the Gears series. How does it look then? In a word, great. This game is still gorgeous. It holds up very well. While there are some ways that you can tell that it is over a decade old, in general, it is not too far off of the more modern games. If this got a proper remaster, it would fit right in with the 8th gen games. This game pushes the Xbox 360 even harder than Gears of War 2 did, and it is very impressive. While the game does look better than Gears of War 2 in terms of detail, it isn't a major leap over that game. Where this game really improves is in terms of lighting effects and smoke and fog effects. These definitely got beefed up for this game. The lighting is a noticeable improvement over the previous game, and good lighting can transform how a game looks. This is definitely the case here, and the fog and smoke effects are heavier in this game. This has a strong effect on this series' frequent explosions. One more thing that I like about this game and its graphics is how it uses color. In my reviews of the previous two titles, I complained about the color palette being almost exclusively brown and gray, which was a common during this generation. This still has some of that for sure, but it mixes it up with a lot more greens, blues, and yellows. This is a very welcome addition as it makes various locations in the campaign feel more distinct. I love this. This game is not without its drawbacks graphically though. It can be a little rough around the edges and it could badly use some anti-aliasing to smooth over the edges. It would benefit strongly from a good remaster in that regard. It also has frame rate issues. It does hold 60 a majority of the time, but it dips into the mid to low 20s often enough that you will notice it. It definitely does not run perfectly smoothly. Overall, this is an impressive package graphically, especially for a 7th generation game. It is gorgeous, it holds up well, the lighting is better, and fog and smoke effects are improved. And it adds quite a bit more color into the world of Gears of War. It does have issues with both frame pacing and frame rate, but it should not be bad enough to ruin the experience. This game looks great more than a decade later. How does the audio hold up then? This was a high point for the previous games with excellent voice acting and weapon sounds and whatnot, and this game is no different. The audio is a high point here as well. Would you expect anything less? Gears of War 3 sounds just as good as the previous two games with a booming audio mix that will give your speakers a good workout. Play this with a good pair of headphones or a good surround sound system. It is worth it. Gears of War has always been good about the gun's environmental noise, and this is no different. Guns are loud, and they sound powerful. Tearing enemies apart with your chainsaw or your bullets or blowing them up is appropriately gross and squishy sounding. It really sounds like your weapons are doing terrible things to your enemies. The cog walk with heavy footsteps, and everything is heightened to make you feel like an absolute badass. It works perfectly. The voice acting is once again good. The various characters are all believable in their roles, and the Queen sounds menacing as always. Marcus and the others show more emotion than the previous two games. Adam Phoenix, Marcus's father, is well handled in this game as well. The scenes with him and Marcus are some of the best in the entire series. I have no complaints about the voice work. The music is once again pretty damn good. It keeps pace with the heavy action quite well, and it does a great job to heighten tension when the game calls for it. And it pumps you up when you are in the middle of large battles with the Locusts and Lambent. The awesome theme makes its triumphant return, and there is even a song by the band Body Count that is a lot of fun. This game is the complete package from an audio standpoint. The voice acting is great, the guns sound powerful, everything is tuned to make you feel like a badass, and the music works well in this game. If I have any complaint about the audio at all, it is that this game is very, very loud. Perhaps it is too loud? That is more of a minor complaint, all things considered. This game sounds great. How does it play then? This game does not do much of anything to push the Gears of War formula at all. If you have played the previous two games, you know pretty much exactly what to expect from Gears of War 3. This is not a bad thing though, because the previous two games played quite well. This one plays quite well too. This game is a lot of fun to play through. So what does this game do to build up on the formula of the previous two games? Not much, to be honest. It gives you a few new weapons to play with. There's a double-barrel shotgun that is a lot of fun to use. It feels powerful and packs more of a punch than the standard shotgun, which was already great. It has a retro Lancer too, which is an older version of the Lancer with a bayonet instead of a chainsaw. It's not bad, but I still like the normal Lancer better. This game does very well to give you lots of cool set pieces to play through. You will be on the back of a truck defending it against enemies as you try to make your way to the next destination, or you will be on a turret on a submarine fighting underwater. You will be defending a fort against waves of locusts. It does a lot to vary things up, keep things interesting, and throw you into some really cool set pieces to play through. This, more than anything, is what this game does better than the previous games. This game has you play as more than just Marcus as well. For part of the game, you will be playing as Cole as well, and you get to go through a really cool story sequence as him. You get to see more of his backstory as a professional sports star and whatnot, and it has a great set piece for him as well. This is a nice addition to the game. I liked it a hell of a lot. This game does give you a couple of new toys to play with. There is a mech suit that strongly resembles the power loader from Aliens that you can use to move heavy cargo from one place to another. There is another mech suit that lets you rip through hordes of enemies. It is a lot of fun to use. The power loader, however, does not really have much in the way of combat abilities and just needs to be protected. You can hop in and out of it to fight enemies, however. Gears of War 3 does not reinvent the wheel or anything, but this is fine. It does not need to. Gears of War had a well-established formula by this point that was a hell of a lot of fun. All it needed to be was more Gears of War with a good wrap-up for the story, and it does that very well. It does a better job of varying up the gameplay than the previous games, and it ramps up the set pieces to an awesome degree. This game is a hell of a lot of fun. If you played the previous two Gears games and enjoyed them, you will enjoy this one as well. What about replay value? As always, Gears of War 3 has a multiplayer mode. It was very popular in its day, but the community has largely moved on from it. Having said that, you can play the multiplayer modes with bots if you want to. This game has co-op, of course, so you can play it with friends, which is the most fun way to play it. It also has an arcade mode where you get points for kills and multipliers and whatnot. There is plenty of reason to return to this game after you have beaten it. All in all, Gears of War 3 is an excellent package. It has a fun story with some heavy moments. It wraps up the story quite well. It gives you plenty of closure. The audio is excellent across the board with powerful weapons and explosions and great voice acting. It plays well. It is a very fun to play through alone or with a buddy. Gears of War 3 is just as good now as it was a decade ago. This game has aged like fine wine. Gears of War 3 is unfortunately still an Xbox 360 exclusive game. There are no ports. It has never been remastered for the Xbox One or Xbox Series, and it has never been ported to PC either. Having said that, it is a backwards compatible title for the Xbox One and Xbox Series. It has enhanced support for the Xbox One X as well, which means you can run this game natively in 4K with a stable frame rate. The game looks sharper than ever on this system, and this and the Series X are absolutely the best way to play Gears of War 3 if you are going to revisit it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. What do you think of Gears of War 3? Do you think it is a fitting into the Gears of War trilogy, or did you feel like it kind of dragged its feet and felt like it was boring and just more of the same? Comment below and let us know. If you could like and share this video, that would help us out a lot as well. Subscribe for more and ring the bell to make sure you actually get notifications when we upload. Talk to you later, everyone. Doomdog out.
Yeah.